I'm Teacher Tiffany. Let's jump right in. Now to start, I want to introduce you to Mike. Mike is a business owner. He has been studying English for years. He has international clients and he conducts meetings totally in English. Now, you may be just like Mike. Maybe you're also dealing with international clients, but sometimes you experience some trouble because you don't know how to say goodbye to your clients. You see, this is what Mike wants to do. Mike has a desire. He wants to end English conversations naturally. He also doesn't want to end conversations in an abrupt way. You know what I mean, right? You're having a good conversation, the meeting is going well, you've expressed what you need, and then crickets. And you say, bye. Very awkward and abrupt. Mike doesn't want to do that anymore. The problem is here. You see, the problem he's experiencing is he doesn't know the correct process for ending a conversation naturally. That's right. There's a natural way to end a conversation and say goodbye in English, but Mike doesn't know. In other words, he always feels awkward when he tries to end a conversation. Now, what will happen if Mike doesn't learn how to say goodbye? There are three things that will happen. First, he will continue feeling frustrated. Next, he will get stressed whenever he has to end an English conversation. And finally, he might just lose clients because he seems rude when he says goodbye. This is something that is very important. I need you to understand this. If you have international clients and you don't know how to say goodbye properly, you might lose those clients because just saying goodbye can be taken as rude. So let me give you the 3 simple steps that you can use and that Mike can use in order to say goodbye properly in English. Here's the formula. Step 1, recap. Step 2, question. And step 3, thanks and bye. That's right. 3 simple steps. Again, recap, question, thanks and bye. So let's see exactly what these steps actually involve. Again, step 1, recap. The first step is to recap or quickly summarize what you spoke about during your conversation with the individual. In other words, this shows that you were actively listening. You see, when you're about to say goodbye, you don't just want to jump right into it and say goodbye. You need to first let the individual know that you were actively listening. But there are 3 different examples I want to give to you for how to recap. For example, let's say you're in a business meeting, like we've been talking about with Mike. Now, to recap a business meeting, this is what you can do. Give the 3 main points, decisions, or takeaways that you and the partner you're working with or the client you're working with went over during the meeting. That's right. To recap a business meeting, you need to give the 3 points, the 3 takeaways, or the 3 decisions that were made during the meeting. Now, what if you're actually talking to a friend? Do you want to end it the same way? No. If you're having a conversation with a friend, what you need to do is think of one thing from the conversation that was funny or interesting or important. One thing. All right. For example, let's say your friend told you a story about their experience last year when they went to California, and it was so interesting. Well, in your attempt to say goodbye, you recap by saying, man, your trip to California sounded like it was amazing. You said what the person was talking about. But what about a time when you're speaking with your English teacher? How can you end a conversation with me? Here's what you do with a teacher. Tell them the main lesson you learned. Again, you're showing that you are actively listening. So after the meeting or the conversation with your English teacher or with your teacher, you can say, thank you so much. I learned that this means this. So you said what you learned. All right. Now, again, so that's step 1, to recap. Now, what's step 2? Here we go. Step number 2 is question. That's right. You're going to ask a question in order to say goodbye properly. Let me explain. So step 2, the second step is to ask the individual if they have any final thoughts related to what you spoke about. In other words, this shows that you care about their opinion. So again, you're letting them know, hey, first you recapped, telling them, hey, I understood what we talked about. Now you're going to ask them about their opinion. So let's say for a business conversation, again, you've already recapped. For the business conversation, this is what you are going to do. You're going to ask them if they have any final points or thoughts that you'd like to bring up next time, or anything they think is important for everyone to remember. All right. But what about with your friend? All right. This is important with your friend as well. After the conversation, you've recapped, said what the most important or funny thing was. What you need to do is say what your plan is for the rest of the day, or ask them, hey, what are you going to do for the rest of the day? Or what are you going to do tomorrow? You're asking them about their life. And what about a conversation with your teacher? Again, in this situation, you've already recapped by saying what you learned. Now you need to ask the question, teacher, is there any other tip? Is there any other lesson you would like me to focus on? You see what's happening, right? Again, step 2 is the question, and you're showing that you care about the other person's opinion. Very, very important. Now, this moves us into step number 3, thanks and bye. The third step is to thank the individual for taking the time to speak with you, and then you can say goodbye. In other words, this shows that you enjoyed the conversation. Now, the same goes for all 3 scenarios: the business meeting or conversation, the conversation with your friend, and even the conversation with your teacher. You're just saying, hey, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. I'll talk to you later. Or goodbye. Have a great day. Again, you've already recapped. You've already asked them for their opinion or any question that they may have for you. You've asked them to know, to let you know what they think, right? In step 2. Now, step 3 is just, thank you so much. I'll talk to you later. And even for your friend, you may be wondering, teacher, what about friends? You can say thanks. Hey, man, really, thanks so much for sharing your story. I'll talk to you later. Bye. So that makes sense, right? Again, no matter what the situation is, you can end the conversation naturally by following the 3 steps. Recap. You got it. Step 2, what is it again? Exactly. Question. And step 3, thanks and bye. You got it. So what about Mike? Now, if Mike decides to follow the 3 steps, this is what's going to happen. Instead of him feeling frustrated, he will no longer feel frustrated when he ends a conversation. Instead of him being stressed, he will gain confidence in his ability to smoothly end a conversation. And instead of losing clients, he will gain lots of respect from his international clients. Now, you know what time it is right now, right? You know, it's story time. Hey, I said it's story time. All right. So I love telling you guys stories about my life. And I want to tell you a story about a time I had to say goodbye to one of my closest friends. So one of my closest friends, she lives in Korea. She's Korean. And I went to Korea. This is after living there for 10 years. I went back to visit, actually for her wedding. And I was getting ready to come back to America. But, I have so many friends in Korea. So I was trying to balance, seeing everyone before I left. But I knew I had to see her and her husband, of course, because I went to Korea for their wedding. But I was staying at another friend's house, with her and her mother and her father. And we were having a really good time. And then my friend called and said, hey, Tiff, can you come over? We want to do something for you to say goodbye before you go back to America. So I said, okay. So I left my other friend's house and I was traveling back to this friend's house. And when I had almost gotten there, she said, oh, we're running a little bit late. Are you okay? And I was on a really tight schedule because, again, I was about to go back to America. But remember, I wanted to make sure I said goodbye properly. There's always a process, right? Remember the recap, then what? You want to also ask the question and then finally thanks and bye. So I said, hey, no worries. And I went to their house. And when I got to their house, they were cooking food for me. Now, for those of you that have been watching me for a long time, you know how much I love food. And I really do like Korean food. And my friend, she can cook. She's really good in the kitchen. So I got to their house and I realized that they had been spending so much time cooking food just for me. So I said, okay. She said, do you want to help? I said, no worries, no problem. So I sat down and I helped her and her husband, kind of fix things. And then we finally sat down to eat the meal. Now, I told you she could cook, But when I tasted that food, my favorite Korean dish is japchae. And it's kind of like lo mein. And I may have told you all about this before. But when I tasted that japchae, oh my goodness. Woo, it was so good. And I kept saying, oh my goodness, this food is so amazing. So we really enjoyed our meal together, right? That was our experience. Now, again, I said I was leaving Korea to go back to America, right? So even though she went with me to the airport, it was kind of like this situation was one of our last goodbyes between me, her, and her husband. And again, so we talked about our experiences together. Her husband used to be my student. So we talked about our experiences. We were recapping. You're following now. We were recapping all of our experiences. And then we started asking each other like, hey, what was your favorite memory? Or what do you want to tell me before I leave? Or what would you like to say to me that you may have never said before? So again, we recapped, then we asked each other questions. And then I thanked them for being good friends, and they thanked me because I actually put them together. As husband and wife, I was the one that introduced the two of them. So we said they said thank you to me, and I said thank you to them for being great friends, and then we said goodbye. So even in that situation, we were there for a while, but it was an entire process of saying goodbye. So we recapped our time together. We also did what? We asked each other questions, and then we finally said thank you to each other and goodbye. So that's my story. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, I told you I love good food. Now remember, if you want to continue studying with me, all you have to do is watch the video. It's going to pop on the screen. You can watch the next video and continue improving your English. Thank you so much for joining me. And as always, remember to speak English.